Welcome to Diaries of a Healing Latina. This is a safe space where we talk about the parts of healing that no one really prepares us for. In today's episode, we're going to dedicate it on how to become disciplined. Yeah, how to become disciplined. I actually had a conversation with my mom and we were talking about my current habits and how I currently live my life. And she was telling me that my discipline right now is actually crazy. And I was like, yeah, like it's actually crazy how disciplined I am. Like I literally live through a calendar and through a schedule. I would have never thought in a billion years that I would be in the position that I am today, living off of schedule. Because that's not me. I'm the type of person that I just live my life pretty spontaneously. I go with the flow and I do whatever I want and I just figure it out throughout the day, throughout the week to see where I'm flowing. Now I live through this schedule that I literally have created for myself without realizing that I live by it. Now we're currently approaching the new year, and with the new year being so close and so many people wanting to start over, so many people wanting to build that discipline, to build that attraction towards their life, whether it's going to the gym, eating healthier, starting content creation, getting good grades, or studying for an exam. It's just all of these things that you're trying to add to your social life. You're trying to add fitness. You're trying to add family time. You're trying to add all of these things everyone's birthday. And sometimes we just get lost within all of those realms and we tend to forget what our goal was that we initially placed in our piece of paper or placed in our life from the very beginning of the year. That used to happen to me a lot. When I tell you, every single year I wrote down in my goals that I wanted to be consistent at the gym. I literally wrote it down every single year. And let me tell you one thing, I never became consistent. I never became disciplined. It didn't come from one day to the next. It wasn't something magical and something that I forced myself to do. I literally was just flowing into it without even realizing, like how I'm telling you. I was having this conversation with my mom and she's telling me about my discipline, my schedule, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh wait, hold on. Like I literally do live by a schedule. And it's crazy to me. Like I said, it's been crazy. I've been watching some of the videos. There are a lot of videos where people talk about creating discipline, being committed to the gym, eating healthier, living this health and wellness lifestyle. But I feel like every single opinion fluctuates. Like everyone has a different perspective. I've seen people, they talk about like working on your outer appearance, like doing your hair, doing your makeup, dressing up more conservatively, all of these different types of things, but the way that I see it is completely different from someone else. And I just wanted to share my opinion on that because it's what helped me and what has created me to be in the place that I am today. Without realizing, I started creating micro habits. And I started by first eating at home. Yeah, eating at home. Like I remember, I think it was 2 years ago. I think we're going into 3 years. I wanted to stop wasting so much money eating out because every day I would eat out and I would spend $400, $500 just on food. Just like on food during the week. During the week. And I was like, no, enough is enough. Like I need to start cooking at home. I need to start eating at home, figuring out what I like, what I don't like. And so I started cooking at home. Mind you, I had not cooked ever since my ex. So pushing myself to start cooking and like basically triggering my PTSD was a bit intense for me, but we did it. And so now I eat during the week at home regardless. I do treat myself over the weekend and I'll eat out, like even if it's a Chick-fil-A, like I'll treat myself to that because the entire week I ate at home. I ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And hello, like why not? So that's how I started my journey to discipline, by just eating at home. Crazy, right? Then I went to Canada, and the second micro habit that I literally implanted to myself without even realizing was going to the gym. It's crazy because every time I think about it, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I actually did that. I was in Canada and I was with my cousin, and my cousin and I started going to the gym. Mind you, there were days that I didn't want to go, but she would push me to go. She would push me to walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes. Mind you, there were those days that I didn't want to go. Those were the days that I was lacking discipline. So her pushing me to go to the gym just for 30 minutes, I would be like, oh my God, like seriously? Like I just want to stay in bed. Mind you, Canada is freaking freezing. I didn't want to get out of my bed. I just literally wanted to stay under the covers, warm, because who the heck wants to be outside like at 30 degrees? Nobody. So I did start going to the gym with her, and that's basically how it all started. I stayed with her for a month. So within that month, I basically created that discipline of working out at least 30 minutes, even if it was just walking on a treadmill. When I got back home, I remember, I think it was like the first week after I got back home, my sister invited me to go to Pilates. No, actually, Legree for the first time on a Sunday. And I remember I looked at my sister and I was like, why are we working out on a Sunday? Like, who works out on a Sunday? I literally was like so weirded out. But that's when I started my healing journey. So I was like, I have nothing else to do. So I might as well just go to Legree. I went to Legree. I literally, it was so hard. It was so tough. I'm not even gonna lie. I literally looked at my sister and I was like, is this really what Pilates is? Because back then I thought it was Pilates. Then I obviously learned the differences between both of them. After that Sunday, I remember I got a membership with ClassPass. And I started off with the first tier. I think it was like not 60 credits. It was like $60 or something like that. And back then, not a lot of people were going to Pilates. So I was just going to Pilates like 2 to 3 times a week. I ended up falling in love with Pilates. Like, I don't know what it was, but it was different than weightlifting. I felt like weightlifting never helped me actually be disciplined because it wasn't my thing. I realized that I wanted something more feminine, something more softer, and that was Pilates for me. That was like my softness there, you know, because at the same time I was also going through therapy, which was very tough for me, and I didn't want to go to the gym and like lift weights because there was something in me that I don't know what it is every time that I lift weights, but I get into this like Hulk vibration and I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know it sounds weird, but that's how I feel every time I lift weights. I'm yeah, I'm like boss moves. Even though I do now want to try it again. But back then I just wanted something to calm my nerves and just be softer. So I started going with my sister to Pilates and I fell in love. From there, we moved to yoga and I started doing yoga with my sister. And when I say that was way different from everything that I had done in my life, that was so different. Mind you, I'm going through this healing journey. I'm going through deep therapy and I started going to yoga. I would cry at the end of the class every time the instructor will give a message because some instructors, they actually give like a cute message at the end. And it was literally like they knew what I was going through at the moment. And every single time for months, I would cry at the end of every yoga class. I would be so embarrassed because I would be like, what the heck? Like, this just literally triggered me and made me cry in the middle of class, like at the end of class. And that was something different for me. That was way, like, it was almost like not only was I working out my body, but I was also working out my heart, my soul. And it basically like opened up and it warmed to what yoga really is if you really take a good instructor. I don't know about anyone else, but that's the experience I had when I was doing yoga in the beginning. But I loved it. I loved it. And every other month, I would add more tiers to my class pass and I started going more consistently. And it got to a point where I was already paying like the last tier of ClassPass and I was going every day working out. And without realizing, I was just working out consistently, doing it. And I loved it. My weekends were not spent trying to figure out what I was going to do, what club I was going to go to, what liquor I was going to drink like I used to back in the past. It was more of like, what studio am I going to try? What class do I want to take? I have spent every single one of my weekends ever since then working out. And I love it. I love every single bit of it. It's like my space. Me nurturing myself. It makes me happy. When I walk out, I feel like I have succeeded for myself in a way. I don't know if it sounds weird, but that's how I feel every time I work out. And it makes me feel like sexy. It makes me feel beautiful. I stare at myself and I'm like, I'm so proud of you. Like, you did it. Because there are days that I don't want to work out and I push myself to go for myself, not for anything else, not to lose weight, not to look good, not to anything, just for my own mental health. Because I know that mentally, every time I work out, my mental health improves and I feel stronger mentally rather than physically. And I feel like sometimes some of us lack that, you know? Like, I know what it is to be down mentally. I know what it is to battle your demons. I know what it is to stare at yourself and not be fully fulfilled with your body, with your mindset, with your life, with anything. And it sucks at times because you want to be appreciative of your life, of what you're currently going through, your current present. But it's hard when your mentality is stuck in the past. And that's what happens to most of us, that we feel like we can't move on, but it's not that we cannot move on. It's just our mental stability cannot move on because we don't know how to help it move on. I found that in order for me to move on from my past, in order for me to heal every single day, to be better for myself every single day, it was not to just go to therapy. It was to move my body. It was to nurture my body. It was to feed my body and feed my body the nutrients that it needs. Take care of my body. Go to the doctor. I do that now. I used to hate the doctor. Now I go to the doctor, check myself annually. And I do all of these things for myself because I love myself and I value myself. You know, all of this came from just walking on a treadmill 30 minutes. Crazy, huh? The third micro habit I started implementing after I started working out consistently, I started watching motivational podcasts. I don't know what triggered me. I don't know how that started, but I remember I started watching The Wizard Liz. And I was obsessed with The Wizard Liz videos, by the way. Like I think I watched literally every single video that she currently has on her YouTube. From there, I started finding other podcasters that I started enjoying watching. So the second person that I started watching was Leo Skepi. I really did love like his way of motivating people because it was not the nurture type of motivation. It was more like get your ass up and get to work so you could feel better about yourself. And I loved that. It was also like the Wizard Liz, but he was more of like in general. I feel like the Wizard Liz is more relationship, life and relationship. I started loving them and then I started finding more and more and more. And I think recently the podcast that I've been watching the most has been the Glow Up podcast, I think it's called. And I also watched the Black Girl Healing podcast. I was obsessed with that one. Like I learned so much because that podcast is not only about healing, but like she talks about so many things. Like I even learned about finances through her podcast, which I really did love. The other one that I would also watch was Tam Kaur. I don't know how to say Tamkar. I don't know how to say her name, but she is British folk. All of these podcasts, I would just basically switch between all of them and just watch them every single morning before I started my morning because it also helped me a lot, like to motivate me, to push me. There were some podcasts that obviously that I did need to hear either that day or that week because I was going either through something mentally or emotionally. You know, especially when you start your healing journey, I think it's like one of the roughest paths because you're basically changing your whole entire life and what you used to do and what you used to know before, it's like you're trying to forget about it, move on from it, and you're trying to basically switch your entire life to this whole new mindset, to this whole new lifestyle. I had to obviously fluctuate between all of it, and I was just going through a lot mentally, and then I started going through a lot physically, like with my health, and it was just things that I needed at the moment. You know, I watch it here and there now. I don't feel like now I need more mental stability because I feel like now I'm more mentally stable than I was before. I feel like before I used to go through a lot of depression for sure and anxiety. Now I have learned how to regulate my nervous system. I've learned to calm myself down, to not experience as much depression as I used to have. And obviously, one of the factors being me cutting men off and now learning about myself, loving myself, nurturing myself has definitely improved and helped me manage my life mentally and emotionally for sure. Another micro habit that I added later on was finding a hobby for myself. Like, what do I like? And I've been testing things here and there because right now I'm just setting my foot into finding my hobby, and I feel like my hobby is this. I love this. Like, by the way, like, don't think that this is easy, especially when you work a full time. Like, you have to record, you have to edit, you have to be your own production team, you have to do everything on your own. And I love doing this. I love investing my time into this. And this is what I spend my weekends on. I don't spend it clubbing or drinking. And even if I get invited to go out anywhere, I usually say no because my plans or my responsibility, and I've placed it as my responsibility, is to sit here, talk to you, and give advice. And this is something that I enjoy to do and I love to do with my entire heart because it's something that I feel like I've been called to do. And this being my hobby and becoming into something more real has honestly been pretty beautiful. Like, I love the path that it's taking. I love the growth that it has taken the past 3 months. Every time that I see messages from people thanking me for speaking up or for giving the advice or they needed to hear that that day truly warms my heart. I've cried a lot too because I never thought that I would touch people's heart. I thought it would just be like me just talking to a camera and just not really talking to anyone. So that's something that I am working on right now, like being more trusting of myself, being more compassionate with myself because I feel like I'm so rough. Like, I'm like, like I do overthink a lot, and that's something that I'm also working on, like my overthinking. The other micro habit that I'll definitely say is find a hobby that you enjoy doing, whether it's knitting, whether it's painting, whether it's hanging out with your family, whether it's going to the beach, taking out your dogs on a walk, petting your cat. I have no idea. But find a hobby that you enjoy. That way you can distract yourself, distract your mind. It also helps you think about everything, and it helps you really reevaluate your life and like where you really want to stand in life. Maybe the career that you're on right now, maybe that's not the career for you, and your hobby is the one that helps you realize that. Because that happened to me, and that was like a wall that I hit very heavy. That definitely was a wall that I hit very heavy, and I never thought I would get to a point that I would have ever said that. I'll definitely suggest like finding a hobby. And the last thing, the last micro habit that I'll share with you is be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. We tend to be so rough on ourselves. We tend to be so strict with ourselves. If we feel like we're not in the place that we're meant to be at that moment, we tend to just put ourselves down. And it's not even the people looking from the outside, it's just your inner mindset. And you have to learn to control your inner mindset and tell yourself that you're doing good. You're doing the best that you can. You're doing amazing. You're doing better than the year before or the 2 years before that. Congratulate yourself. Sometimes we want the outer approval, but the approval that we really need is the approval from ourselves. Stare at yourself in the mirror and be like, do I really need someone to congratulate me, or do I need to congratulate myself? And the answer is you need to congratulate yourself. You need to nurture yourself. You need to treat yourself nicer. Because no one's going to treat you the way that you need to be treated unless you don't treat yourself that way. And that's something that I had to learn, and I learned this year. All I'm going to say is like, no one's going to show up for you the way that you are. Unless obviously it's your family. My family is the one that really shows up for me. But no one's going to show up for you unless you don't show up for yourself. And that's the truth. A lot of people seek for other people's approval. But when you really realize that approval that you really needed was the one that you give yourself, that's life changing. When you pull yourself away from everyone and everything and you literally just get yourself into this groove into a mindset where you tell yourself, like, I'm going to accomplish every single one of my goals that I wrote down in the new year. I promise you, you're going to accomplish them. If you don't accomplish at least two, that means that you need to reevaluate your life and really look into your life and tell yourself, like, what is it that I couldn't even accomplish not one of my goals that I wrote down during the new year? But what was it? I'll tell you mine. Back then, for me, it was men. Because I was trying to date and trying to find my future husband. Then I will look back at my life and I will look at my entire year and I would realize that I spent an entire year on a man trying to get his approval, trying to get him to commit to me, trying to get him to show me that he loved me, trying to catch him cheating on me or lying to me. And it was just tears. And I have no idea what I was saying. I'm just gonna wrap this up. I wanted to share with you some of the micro habits that I implemented in my life that I didn't even realize that I had implemented and literally helped me improve my life. Not only my life, but my discipline. Because with discipline comes a lot of success, a lot of happiness. It may be rocky in the beginning, it may be a little shitty. Sorry for using that word, but it leads to a road of happiness, of fulfillment, of accomplishments. And I think one of the most beautiful traits a person could have is discipline, especially in a man. Because if I have this much discipline, a man should too, especially one that dates me. That's all I'm going to say, because I'm not working my A off for a man to just stay at home playing video games. I'm sorry, sweetheart. That's not going to happen. Not to you. But with all of that being said, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you